This video will cover just the front, so page 4.1 in your notes. A different video will be for 4.2. The first thing we're going to talk about are ratios. A ratio is a comparison of two values. So these can be any two values. You can compare apples to oranges or anything like that. They don't have to be the same thing. So if you look right away at number 1, we're comparing DVDs to books. So they don't have to be related at all, these two different values. There are 3 different ways that you can write a ratio. The way you read it out loud is A to B. So you actually can just write out A to B. So like 5 to 4 is what you would say. I don't recommend that one just because it's the most writing, but you could do that. Another way you can do it is you can put a colon in between. So A and then your two dots for your colon and then B. That's probably one of the most used ways to write ratios. A lot of times like in a newspaper or anything like that, if there's a ratio, that's how it's shown. The other way is just an actual fraction, so A over B. So the directions ask you to write it in 2 different ways. You don't need to do that. You can just do one way. That's fine. I would recommend either the first or the second or the third way. So either with the colon or the fraction. Sometimes it's easiest to do it as a fraction just because you're used to doing that. The big key is, just like fractions, they always have to be written in simplest terms. So you always need to simplify, and you'll see that as we go through the notes. So I'll go back and forth between the different ways to write them. I'm not going to write the word 2 on any of them, but I will sometimes use the colon and sometimes use the fraction, and you can choose. If you want to switch it up, that's great, or you can do the same one every time. It's up to you. So it is as simple as just doing 8 over 2. And then we need to simplify that. Now hopefully we know that 8 over 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4. The problem is ratios have to have 2 numbers. So even if this divides to a whole number, you need to write it as 4 over 1. So the ratio needs to say 4 over 1. So if your number divides to a whole number, so your calculator is not going to give you 4 over 1. You have to realize if it divides to a whole number, you still need to put the 1 on the bottom. So usually we don't need to, but with ratios, you absolutely have to have 2 numbers. So we write it as 4 over 1. Number 2, I'll write it the other way, 15 to 24. But then we need to simplify that. So you can either use your fraction button in your calculator, or you can just divide both of them by 3, and you would get 5 to 8. So this is what I need to see for your final answer. If you don't have to write out the first part before you simplify it, that's fine. But you definitely have to have the simplified one. For number 3, we have 20 to 8. So you're going to put 20 over 8. Now, most of you, when you simplify that, you're going to get a mixed number in your calculator if you use your fraction button. So remember, if you have a mixed number, to change it to an improper fraction, you just have to hit second enter, or second ABC, and then enter, and it will change it to an improper fraction for you. These have to be improper fractions. They cannot be mixed numbers. All right, so this one needs to be written as 5 to 2. So make sure that's 5 to 2. For number 4, we have 6 to 42. So 6, I'm going to write it with the colon this time. Again, you can choose either way you want to write this. 6 to 42. Make sure you simplify it that way. 42 divided by 6 is 7, but the 6 needs to come first. So you should have your final answer as 1 to 7. Number 5, we have 36 bananas and 27 apples. So 36 over 27. Again, this is going to give you a mixed number since your top number is bigger, so you need to change that to an improper fraction. Second, ABC equals, and that will do that for you. We should end up with 4 to 3. Number 6 is 8 to 14. Again, if you don't need to write the first set out, you want to write just your simplified version, that's totally fine. So 8 to 14 simplifies to 4 to 7. So if you just want to write the 4 to 7, that's fine. That's what I'm going to look for first. Number 7, 30 to 72. Again, simplify that, you would get 5 to 12. So this should be pretty simple as long as you keep them in the correct order and then make sure to simplify. Number 8, 24 to 40. So we get 3 to 5. All right, now number 9 has a couple of questions with it. So this past season, the hockey team had 48 wins and 28 losses. Find each ratio in simplest form. So part A wants wins to losses. So that's just right in the order they gave us. So I'm going to put 48 to 28. And then again, we need to simplify that. It should simplify to 12 to 7. That's what I'm looking for, is 12 to 7. Part B wants losses to total. So they didn't tell us the total. You have to figure that out. So we need to do 48 plus 28 to get 76 for the total. So for some of these, you're going to have to do some work to figure out what one of your numbers is. So losses was 28 and total was 76. So sometimes you're going to have to do some work and not just go right to the answer for these. Simplify that, we get 7 to 19. So again, your final answer needs to be 7 to 19. All right, number 10, we have the word Massachusetts, and we need to find the ratio of vowels to consonants. So vowels would be A, U, and E. So there are 4 vowels. I'm going to write this one with a colon just so you have the different options. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consonants. That doesn't need to be simplified. There's nothing that goes into both 4 and 9. All right, now we want the S's for part B. So we need to count the S's. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the total number. Now you could go back and count it, or you should know in this one we counted all the numbers, or all the letters. So 4 plus 9 would give us 13. So nothing wrong with counting again, but if you go back to part A, 4 and 9 was all the total letters, so there was 13 total letters. So ratios, just make sure you put them in the order that they are given to you and always simplify. Remember, if it simplifies to a whole number, you still need to put it over 1, just like we did in number 1 up here. If it gives you a mixed number, you need to change it back to an improper fraction.